but here's what he did.
Rhyme it. Do you know how to rhyme it? Oh, please just rhyme it.
And he really gets into it.
Do you know how to rhyme it?
Yeah, of course.
We will
you don't even have to think about
it. So let's rhyme it today. Rhyme it.
Yes.
We are gonna rhyme it. Just rhyme
that's
it.
where he just rammed it.
Everybody, amazing.
I'm not going to remember any of it.
That's the way to go.
All to the Rams today and ram it.
I mean, now he's like on his feet.
How are you guys?
Whose house?
Wow.
Ram it.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Rams Brothers the Pod. I'm your host, Dean, and I'm joined by my brother and the other host of this show, Nick. And Nick, final week of the season. It's been a tough one. We got the Seahawks coming up in the last game of the year. 6-point spread. Do you think the Rams have a chance in this game? Want to see how you're doing.
I'm doing good. I think they win outright, 100%. Money on the table. Already have the bet in place.
So I do too.
Really?
I do. Yep. Placed the bet. I think it was Wednesday night.
Two things, two huge factors. One, the NFL is going to want that Packers-Lions game to mean as much as possible. And they flexed it to Sunday night. So maybe officiating may lean towards us. Just a thought. Possibly. And then two, I feel like McVay in Seattle. I don't Baker, Stafford, I don't care. I think they want to win this game. I think they want to win it so Goff has a chance to go to the playoffs. And
they want to win it for Bobby Wagner in a close game that they played last time that he had a great interception in. And yeah, there's a lot of reasons I think the Rams need to win this game.
And obviously Seahawks are a winning, not even a win-in scenario. They need to win and then watch the Lions lose or Lions win.
Yeah, Seahawks situation is interesting. So for them to make the playoffs, they need to beat the Rams at home. Obviously,
and then the Lions need to win.
And the Lions need to win over the Packers, or they need to tie. They need a tie between the Lions or the Packers in order for them to get in. In the event the Lions win and the Seahawks win, the Seahawks would hold the tiebreaker by virtue of the head-to-head victory. Whereas the Packers and the Seahawks, if they both finish 9-8, Green Bay would advance due to a better conference record. Right. So yeah, it's some final drama at the end of the season. Exactly how the NFL has drawn it up, right? Where the opportunity is that there's three teams that are legitimate playoff threats in the Lions, the Seahawks, and the Packers.
And that's just in the NFC.
Yeah, and they're all fighting to get the final wild card spot in the NFC, that 7th seed. So very, very interesting the way that it's all unfolding. I think that the Rams being a 6-point underdog, I think it was in the final game of the season, Roberto Clemente, his name is on Twitter, tweets out really, really great, specific, detailed Rams statistics in the final home game of the season where they are underdogs. I believe they're 2-3. Maybe they're 1-3. I have to go look back at the statistic, but go back to Roberto on Twitter and check out the stat. So I think this is a unique situation as to where Bobby Wagner has an opportunity to break the Rams all-time tackles record with 11 tackles against his former team. Obviously, you're not going to have any Aaron Donald in this game, no Cooper Kupp, no Allen Robinson. You're going to be playing with the same kind of pieces that you've been playing with over the last 5-6 weeks. And I think that the continuity up front has been developing. It looks like they're very, very much committed to the run game. I think we tweeted out some cool statistics about C.J. Anderson closing out the 2018-2019 season in comparison to what Cam Akers has been able to do over the last couple of weeks. So I feel like this is going to be a really, really fun game to watch. Right, you could see Kenneth Walker's coming off back-to-back 100-yard performances on the ground. The Seahawks are bottom 10 in points allowed, and Cam Akers is coming off 2 100-plus rushing games. So I think a lot of the yardage is going to be earned on the ground in this game. Geno Smith is coming off a game where he threw for like 186 yards or 183 yards and 2 touchdowns, had a really solid passer rating. But the Rams are able to get to him a little bit. Where I think we had 2 interceptions against him the last time we played him in the 27-23 loss.
Right.
So there's I think that this defense finally has an opportunity to step up a little bit. If you could shut down the run and force Geno to beat you in the same way that we asked for in the previous game, I think that they have a chance.
We upgraded in the QB position from last time we played them.
Very much so. Was it Perkins last time we played?
Yeah, it was Perkins.
Yep.
And we almost walked away with the win. We almost snuck one out there, and the guys really wanted that one because they kept cutting to Ramsey and Wagner on the sidelines, like freaking out. And Wagner I think he had a pick in that game. It was like the ball's like thrown near
Yeah,
him.
Wagner. Yeah, Wagner did. He had the interception where he was
up.
coming down and it kind of like fell into his arm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. This is
Yeah,
pretty
so-
miraculous interception.
I know that they want it. I know that they want to knock out Seattle. I know the NFL wants it, so the Lions have a chance to make the playoffs in Lambeau, and that Green Bay game matters a little more. I'm excited. I have Rams, Lions. I got some other things in the works. I'll break it all down for you guys.
Nikki's Pickies is coming in strong. Yeah, there's I think with this game, if the offense can kind of commit to what it's been able to do really well over the past couple of weeks, where early on they commit to some complexities at the offensive line. You have some misdirection in the run game. You have Baker Mayfield booting out on a play action. Baker Mayfield's good when he's under center and good when he's in play action, but he's also pretty decent when he's in shotgun. So it doesn't feel like the playbook is as limited as it was back 3-4 weeks ago when we had to play Seattle with Bryce Perkins. I'm very interested to see what the offense is able to do. It seems like Tutu Atwell is very, very much developing. The offensive line does have some solid continuity with some health there. The Seattle Seahawks are not great at rushing the passer, and they're weak defensively overall. It feels like an opportunity where you can kind of compile some of the things that you've done over the last 4 or 5 weeks and be able to bring it into this game. I was looking back at the Raiders game specifically, where we were 6-point underdogs, which it kind of feels like the same kind of game. Right, where the line is very much in favor of the opponent. Obviously, that game was at home, and you were there wearing the tape over the back of your Baker Mayfield jersey, the old Robert Woods bone, number 17. But that Raiders game, it seems like you're out. You're only scoring what? They had 3 points at the half, and then there was an offensive explosion in the second half. So you might maybe see a little bit of that, where you start a little bit slower. To me, though, the trends that I've been seeing over the last 3 weeks are that they're going to be able to start fast, commit to the run, and get out ahead offensively, and then be able to play the kind of defense, the kind of brand that Raheem Morris wants to play. And if you could limit guys like DK Metcalf, if you could limit Tyler Lockett, who I think is coming off of an injury, there's not too many weapons. I know that the one thing with Seattle, a lot of their completions last week came against tight ends. So if you can kind of limit the middle of the field and limit that second level of defense, it forces Geno Smith to have to take shots downfield. And that's where your guys like Kobe Durant and Jalen Ramsey, and no Nick Scott in this game, unfortunately. So maybe some young safety play is able to step up. Maybe you see Russ Yeast come in and potentially earn a starting spot for next year. Yeah. So I'm very interested in this game. This is as excited as I've been to watch a Rams game in probably 5 or 6 weeks.
Well, I'm going
to be honest.
I think from the Baker-led Rams, the performance that you get, they've kind of flip-flopped, right? It's what you expect most of the time. Green Bay, Chargers, you're not really getting a complete game. But then all of a sudden, in the Raiders and the Broncos games, he's out there like balling out essentially. And the Raiders game, it took him 3 quarters to figure out what he was doing. But then once he got there in the fourth quarter, all of a sudden, he's leading down this like insane 98-yard touchdown drive. So I think that, they're still trying to figure out the quirks, which is weird because it's coming to an end now. But you're kind of getting this Jekyll and Hyde team. And I think it's time, they've kind of been going back and forth. It's like win, loss, win, loss. So it's time to get back in the win column, especially when it matters. Part of me almost wishes that we had this like a lot earlier on, like if we had the Baker Frankenstein team when we were like in the middle playing Seattle for the first time in Kansas City, like we could realistically still be in that hunt. Like we have 6 wins.
Well, Nick, it's such a good point that you make too, because it's if you finish the season, you go 6-11, and it's like, this team is breaking the record for most losses by a Super Bowl champion in the following year. But if there's 2 games that go the opposite direction, it's 8-9 versus the team that's going to make the wild card in the
that Tampa game could have went our way. The Seattle game could have went our way. This game could mean something.
A couple games earlier on, definitely went our way.
They definitely gave up too early. I mean, the Lions were 1-6, and now they have all the tenacity in the world. And the Packers were 2-8 or something. So,
yeah, I mean, I remember the Packers were coming off of losses to the Giants, Jets, Commanders in 3 consistent. I think they went Lions, Giants, Commanders, Jets,
and they lost all 4.
4 consecutive losses. To me, that was this team is not good enough to win, which is why I really like the Lions tomorrow. especially if the Rams can get a win, because it seems like the whole world's going to be rooting for the Rams and the Lions to be able to get themselves in the playoffs.
Right, and I have a little cheeky assortment of bets on top of my regular week bets.
I figured as much. I mean, this game has a little bit more meaning to it too, right? Because the overall record between the Seahawks and the Rams, it's currently Seahawks 26, Rams 24. That's overall.
Just
right?
like lifetime record?
Lifetime record. Yeah, Seattle has scored 18 more points total than the Rams. So it's 1,068 versus 1,050. Kind of an irrelevant stat, but pretty interesting to know.
Well, that's a shame, because this could have been the year when we took it over.
Well, yeah, it should have been, right? So the last time that they played them, it should have been 25-25 overall season, right? Because if the Rams won that game, it's a loss for Seattle, win for the Rams. So 25-25 overall. This would be an opportunity to own the legacy series, right?
Which is crazy, because like, at least from the St. Louis Rams days when they were, the beast mode, greatest defense ever.
Mm-hmm.
It just felt like they just completely owned us. And like
since 2015, since Todd Gurley was drafted on this team and Aaron Donald, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So they're 11 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're 11 and 5 against Seattle since 2015.
That sounds right. Because even in those Jeff Fisher dark days, it felt like they always would win in Seattle, like 11-10 final score or something like that.
Yeah, I believe Jeff Fisher was there for the first time in 2013. I could be wrong there. It might be 2014, but that would mean that he lost his opening 2 games against Seattle, came back split, and then won the following 2 the next year. And the year after that, he also split. So, it's just
always,
legacy.
The Rams against Seattle, no matter when in time you're going to take them throughout history, is always a good bet, because usually they were plus money.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. They were plus 3.5. They were plus 6.5. I think they got all the way up to 9.5 in the Fisher era, because that Seattle team was a juggernaut, right, in 2014, 2015 when they were coming off the Super Bowl.
I mean, they should have the last 2 back-to-back Super Bowl wins.
Yeah, it's a shame that they don't. And it's obviously a record that's owned by the Patriots. Nick, the last thing that I wanted to bring up too before we switch over to Nick's picks was the Sean McVay drama.
Oh, see, this is something I kind of didn't want to get into, because it really, really rattles me the wrong way.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's a right here, right now discussion, right? When he's asked about it, he's like, I'm happy here. I'm happy now. I'm flattered by the opportunity, potentially. Who wouldn't be flattered by whatever the hell kind of price tag they're throwing above his head to be, a Thursday night broadcaster or a Sunday night broadcaster, either way. It's so difficult, right? Because we were talking about Pete Carroll. I remember in the last Seahawks episode that we were talking about how if Pete Carroll, if his fuel to coach ever died down, he would be one of the best broadcasters that are out there. Sean McVay's half his age. If that competitive fire starts to sizzle out a little bit, you're going to see him in the broadcast booth sooner than later. But this is also a discussion, and I'm reading articles from Mike Florio of Pro Football Network or whatever the hell he's from. And he's just always been against Sean McVay. It seems like the entire media narrative has always been like kind of pushing the envelope for him to eventually retire. I'm not sure exactly why. I guess it's kind of the wonderkind methodology where it's this young guy. He's came into the league so hot and he's had so much success. Like, let's see him sizzle out and then go into broadcasting and see if he could come back. It's like people just kind of teeter-tottering with what they want to see happen with Sean McVay. But this article goes all the way back to February 15th last year after they won the Super Bowl. And these same articles kind of continue to be recycled. Until it happens, I don't believe anything. Right. I've heard Sean McVay lie about injuries. I've heard him lie about different situations, about different play calls. Like, I feel like he just kind of says what he needs to say in the moment when he's in a press conference. He's very much an in the moment kind of person. And to me, that's kind of the only direction you can go with it right now. You can't sit here week 18 of his 6th season and say, oh, he's definitely going to hang it up. I don't think players, coaches, anybody really wants to go out that way. I think you give it one more shot and reevaluate everything at the end of next season.
I think there have only been a handful of times when McVay has been truly candid and hasn't brought the the perfect, beautiful man up to the stage to answer the questions how a coach should.
It's not that easy.
Right. But that's one thing he's really good at.
Yeah.
It was after the Dolphins game in 2020, and they asked a question about like, what are you going to do about Goff's 4 turnovers in this game? And he was like, our quarterback needs to do a better job not losing the football, not turning over the football. And that was like, whoa, I've never heard him say anything like that. And then the other 2 times are hella recent when he was like, after Donald, Kupp, Ramsey, and Stafford are gone, I'm probably out of here. And then now this, where he's like, I want to be here right now, but my focus is going to be like to have a family and whatnot. It just feels so throwing this Rams team to the curb, and which is kind of a little heartbreaking because at least the way I would see it, if I've reached my goal as a let's say I want to be a pianist, a concert pianist. If I reach my goal and I get there and I do that for like 6 years, I would not stop until they pull me out. Like what?
Yeah, but here's the alternative.
The Harbaughs and the Belichicks and the Pete Carrolls, where it's like, if I'm not coaching, I don't know, like what else can I do?
Yeah, but say for example, like you're the lead pianist for whatever the hell you said. Say for example, they heard you sing on downtime and they wanted to promote you as the lead singer for the primetime slot, and it's offering $15 million more than what you made as a pianist.
Right.
Thoughts.
So my thoughts are, can I really abandon this concert tour that I've kind of been with and has taken me and made me who I am?
Your residency in Vegas?
Right. Can I really let Vegas down? And, maybe I'll sing for a little bit, but at the end of the day, I'm a pianist, man. I'm gonna play my piano. And I feel like he's gonna copy Gruden, He's gonna go on air for like 2-3 years. Gruden was horrible, by the way. He was so bad on air.
I think people thought he was going to kind of be like the next John Madden.
I think that's what everybody hoped, but he did not even have that kind of charisma at all. He also doesn't really look like a football guy.
Yeah, I think he had it. I mean, like the Gruden quarterback camps and come on, man. Everything with the eyebrows and everything they used to do. I thought there was Frank Caliendo coming out and doing impressions of it. I think there's a lot of good stuff that came from John Gruden as a broadcaster, but it's a team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, that he won a Super Bowl with. They just stacked across the board with Hall of Fame talent, but you got to be the one that kind of brings it all together. I don't know if the whole Gruden McVay thing, the comparisons, everything that comes along with that. I don't know if Sean wants to follow that template. And maybe he does because it's the family that essentially brought him into the league.
Well, yeah, he doesn't want to get fired for his shit emails.
Well, but I mean, also look at the brother too. Like the brother, I think was an assistant or he was an advisor to the Rams a couple of years ago, and he was in charge of Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay and Matt LaFleur and all of these top coaches, and he's no longer in the league. So to me, there's confusion as to why you would want to trend in that direction versus you being the face of this franchise. Nick, you talk about it all the time. How often are coaches one of the faces of the franchise?
Right.
How often are you're creating promotional material for your head coach? Like it's maybe 1 in 5. So
I think it's even less than that. I think Campbell is now doing a good job, but throughout the ages, it's been Belichick, Madden, McVay, Gruden,
Reed.
I guess Harbaugh,
Tomlin
for sure. But even like to the sense where McVay is like on the posters, like that's not like, you know what I mean? Like on the screensaver for the Super Bowl win, like McVay is one of the main guys. I feel like that's not something that you usually see.
Well, and here's the other side of it too, where it's like, listen, Sean McVay is incredible. And then people will automatically switch gears to Sean Payton, right? There's talk that Mike McDaniel would potentially leave the Dolphins, or the Dolphins would fire Mike McDaniel, which almost makes zero sense to me, which I feel like is a lot of rumors. But here's the other side of it. If Mike McDaniels gets fired, isn't offered another head coaching job, McVay and McDaniel are able to be together in terms of here's an offensive mind, an offensive assistant, a coordinator. You got every single offensive piece combined together in that same room. And obviously you're coming back, you're reuniting to take down Kyle Shanahan as well. That to me would be something extremely interesting and would be a reason why Sean McVay would stay in the league, right? If you take that much weight and pressure and work off of his shoulders and McDaniel is the one that's calling the offense, I mean, I feel like we solved their problem.
I don't think Stafford's decision is completely set in stone. I know he says he's going to come back.
I agree with you completely.
But I don't think it's 100%. I think he has to do a lot more reevaluating over the offseason. And then hopefully, potentially, Baker can just stay. Or maybe they get somebody else. I don't know. But I do think if McVay leaves, hangs it up in like by the end of next year, and they go 6-11 again, or like 8 and whatever the other number would be,
8-9,
8-9, 9-8, 7-9-7. If they go around Fisher territory, and then he hangs it up, I think it absolutely damages his legacy 100%. Because people are going to say, active McVay haters already, it's like, oh, well, if I had all those pieces, I could have been a Super Bowl head coach.
and that goes back to the same conversation with Gruden.
Right. But then, yeah, right. I mean, you're saying he's not following the template. I feel like he's following it exactly. But also, he mortgaged the future for the Rams. And I think the thought was he's going to be here when they're kind of in the dumps, so they're not going to be like, a horrid franchise.
Well,
to me,
that to me is what they are right now.
I mean, you just won a Super Bowl last year.
I'm saying this season though. It's like they to me have in the last 4 weeks have prevented this season from being an absolute fucking train wreck.
Right. I agree. Because that's where it was headed. I mean, like every week it was just like to the point where watching games was just kind of like an afterthought, which is sad. After you
unfortunately.
Yeah. It's like, oh, well, the game's on, but, I can do other things. But, like, what's the point of watching this Chargers game? They're probably going to get blown out, and lo and behold, they do. But yeah, I don't think that's going to help him. But then on the same leaf, he'll have any job he wants when he comes back.
Yeah, that's the other side. I mean, it's the Sean.
Which is just like I don't want to see him coaching like the Chiefs after Andy Reid retires or something. Like
no. I don't think I'll be able to stomach that. Right? It's like watching Aaron Donald play for a different team.
It is really hard for me to just think that he wants to like. It feels a little insulting to the Rams that for him just to be like, well, I am going to leave and I am probably going to come back and it's not going to be with the Rams. So good luck. Good luck. Yeah. Like we did it that one time. Like at least Vermeil was like, look, man, I'm old. I can't do this anymore. I can't fathom another.
Yeah, but then he came back. He came back and coached the Chiefs for like 6 years. He was full of shit.
Right.
He was totally full of shit.
Right about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the other problem. He wasn't full of shit. These coaches have very, very real burnout. If it takes for a guy to completely burn out to win a Super Bowl in St. Louis or Los Angeles, so be it. Take off some time. But if you're going to take off some time, make sure you come back to the organization that brought you to where you are.
Right. I think,
go to the Chiefs.
I mean, I don't know how it worked with Gruden, and now it's kind of muddled. But I feel like I don't know if he can make the Hall of Fame.
Well, you saw with Gruden, right? He was out of the league for so many years.
And he was out for a while.
And then the criticism was the league went past him.
Yeah.
League moves too fast.
They developed ahead of him, yeah.
Yeah.
That was great. Oh, my God. What was that? That was the 2018 season, the start of the season, Gruden versus McVay.
Yeah. Yeah, it was the Marcus Peters game with a, HMD falling backwards. Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. And then that was like a great,
that's one of my favorite Rams moments. But that was the 2018 preseason. Or was it the first game of the season?
It was the
first game of the season. I always get 17 because we were at the first game of the season in 17 where they just demolished the Colts.
Yeah.
And then the following year it was the Raiders. You're correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
So do you want to do a peak and valley of the season before we go on the next picks?
Sure.
Okay.
Peak and valley. Go ahead. You start. This must be a new segment that I'm not aware of.
Just recap of the season.
I
think the my peak had to have been. There were no happy memories in the beginning because they lost every important game, and then they won these crap games against the Panthers. Mm-hmm. I think that first Baker Mayfield game, and I think a lot of fans are going to say that, especially being at the stadium. That was electric to see them.
It was the way that he was signed was it a Thursday night game?
Yeah, he was signed like Monday.
Signed Monday, going into Tuesday, had to fly out to Los Angeles, memorize the playbook on the plane, go out, beat the Raiders. And then it felt like the season kind of
Came back a little bit.
changed a little bit. Yeah, I think your expectations were they stayed around the same level, but at the same time, it was like, okay, this team will at least be competitive over the end of the season.
It also
We can
completely
commit some time to it. Yeah.
like it just completely shows how important a backup is in this league. And
Yeah.
if they would have had somebody of Drew Lock, Baker Mayfield quality, then I think they could actually be in the playoff hunt if they would have stole a couple of games with those guys. But John Wolford is just horrible. My valley had to have been, or whatever it was, the pit. My pit is definitely.
Don't say the same moment as me.
I was going to say the end of the Tampa game.
Which was
blow that Tampa game against Brady and like give them a chance to like score with like 4th and 1 left, and then they.
Oh yeah, that was torture.
Because it was like, oh, if we win this, then like we're still kind of in it.
Yeah, and it prevents Tampa from still being alive too. If you
because
they're almost out of it in this scenario if we win that game.
Yeah.
Because it's another conference loss, another head-to-head loss, right? So I think my valley or downfall, whatever it would be, is the John Wolford hospital ball to Cooper Kupp. It was the throw to the sideline.
I was trying to leave out injuries because there were just so many.
Yeah, but it was really that whole game. It felt like the entire season was completely over with. And
I was really close to saying just Wolford in general. Watching.
Yeah,
Wolford.
you know what? There's really a couple, like the David Edwards situation where he almost had back-to-back concussions in consecutive weeks. Stafford telling us that he had numbness in his legs from a spinal cord. I know this is all injury specific. Sorry about that, but yeah,
no, I know.
It's because these are guys that we love. And then I guess the other situation, which was a downfall for me, sorry, I'm naming so many, but you just had so many just come rush to my mind, was Darrell Henderson being released.
Yeah, that really hurt. But I listened to some podcast that Peter Schrager was on, and I think the idea there was, we're not going to keep you next year. We're going to release you, and if another team wants you, then you could be a part of a run.
Right. And then you could earn the dollars and then potentially get a new contract with a different team. Totally. Jacksonville did him so dirty, but it wasn't just Henderson this year, right? It was Justin Hollins. It was Terrell Lewis. It was Terrell Burgess, right? There's a lot of guys defensively that they cut ties with, and they were 3rd round picks, 4th round picks, 5th round picks that you needed to develop and contribute. And guys just never did. So that's also kind of a downfall. But in a season where it seems like you can kind of
Morris.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Raheem Morris, duck for tomatoes. In a season where it seems like a lot has gone wrong, you have an opportunity to beat Seattle, keep them out of the playoffs, and give Jared Goff a chance to go make the playoffs with the Detroit Lions. So to me, following a Super Bowl victory season, if you're going to tell me that they were going to be 6-11, but that last win was going to be against Seattle to send Jared into the playoffs, I would say, all right, fast forward, get me there. I'm excited.
Yeah. I really hope the Rams can pull it out.
I think there's a good chance.
All right, are we ready for Nick's final picks?
We're ready. Was there a theme song that I missed or no?
No, there was no theme song because this is just a overall, we're going to go back and kind of break down all of the picks this year and see where we landed. So it's
should we play the first one you ever did? Because I still haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me jump into our sponsor real quick before we get into Nick's picks.
You do that. I'm going to refill my coffee. So
okay, do it. Bet Online. Basketball is back, and Bet Online remains your number one source for all sports betting needs this season. You'll always find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at Bet Online. And as your continued source for all sports wagering information, Bet Online features live betting, free contests, and giveaways all season long. It's always the fastest, it's always the easiest way to bet all of your favorite sports and events, whether that's NFL, NBA, NHL, MMA, tennis, boxing, or even golf. Head to betonline.ag today and receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure you use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to receive your rewards. Bet Online, where the game starts.
All right.
Nick, did you fill up your coffee?
I did, and my cat snuck into the room.
Oh no!
So I had to get the cat out before Nick's picks.
Zola.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Nick's picks. So we had a pretty fun year on Nick's picks. Dean, do you want to play the theme song just to commemorate all the theme songs?
Sure, we'll play the first one ever.
Yeah.
First one ever. Yep. Here we go. It's a good one.
This was a good start.
Nicky's Picks, right here on Thursday. Nicky's Picks, where we all come to play. There's
I thought
Dean,
you were
the
singing
hunky
it.
advisor. Dean's locks are not
locks
a part
are
of Nick's
not a
Picks.
part of Nick's
Then
Picks.
there's Dean's younger brother. He's the smart one. Meet their old dad, too. He comes on occasionally. Of course, it's time for Nicky's Picks. They're the very best. He's the rootin'est, tootin'est gambler in the NFC West.
It was always the NFC West, the ending that got me.
Mm.
Very creative.
What a great time we had on Nick's Picks this year. We had a positive year. Dean, I want to read you some quotes, and I want to talk about the over-unders that we placed before the season, because I went back and listened to that, and I was like, oh, boy, like, what did we say?
Oh, no.
Rams
Yeah,
over.
I know we both took the Rams over 10.5.
Rams over 10.5. Me and you both soared over. Also, I'm talking about how my book won't let me place Rams make the playoffs at -125, like more than $100, because I was like, oh my God, what a smart book.
Yeah, you should send them an email and thank them.
Yeah, that was horrible. But then we both had Lions over 6.5. I said they were a dark horse playoff team. And then we had a little rat-tat-tat back. So it goes you, me, then you. So you say, talking about the Lions, if they win 8 games, most Lions fans would consider it a success, which is absolutely true. And then I said, I think 9. I think they can get in the playoffs with 9. And then you said, I think Vikings are the true winner of that division. So, I mean, that's like almost like completely on the money right there.
A little insight into the future there for you guys.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I was a fan of that. And then Cardinals over 8.5. Me and you both said over. Up until this point, I've been calling these bets Warios. I was like, oh, yeah, it's absolutely a Wario, which meant like a hammer, something I thought I was going to continue into the season that I did not. But I called this Cardinals one a smaller Waluigi bet because I wasn't as confident. But the whole time I'm just like, I'm like, oh my God, Kyler Murray can do anything. He can do no wrong. And then he's been like irrelevant this year.
Yeah, wait till they set their over under this year at 5.5 or 6. And we're probably both going to go over again. Maybe not. Maybe not. Depends what they do with the coach.
And then we both loved Vikings over 9, which was pretty easy for both of us. We were talking about how Kevin O'Connell is going to lead them to a divisional title, which was pretty great. And we totally were on top of that. And then at the very end, I started convincing you and I both to go over Eagles 9.5 because it had just moved from 8.5 to 9.5. And we were both, we're like, you know what? Before it just keeps going, let's just get it now. And we ended up Warioing it. So we went 3 for 5 on the over-unders, which I think is pretty solid.
Well, yeah, the Eagles hit that, 5 weeks ago? So that one was
that was a no sweat. So I think we did pretty good on the over-unders. 3 for 5. 3 for 5 is kind of that's where I lived this season.
Yeah.
A win percentage at 59%. If you include the over-unders, it's exactly 60. Dean's locks, solid 45%. But
I'll take that.
Something that you have to consider is while it may be 60% and while it may be 45, a lot of Dean's locks were very positive. They were like a plus 300 bet, plus 400 bet. Also some of mine, like a lot of underdogs hit. So that 60% is good, but your total would be higher. Same with Dean's locks would be higher than a 45% hit rate because you have
like the
more.
The Skoranek anytime touchdown and then the Eagles money line, Boston Scott parlay, like those were both in the 600, 700 range. Yeah.
Right. So that was that would have made your money back tenfold from those weeks. We had 6 3-2 weeks, 5 weeks with over 4 wins, 0 weeks with no wins, and then 18 theme songs.
0 weeks with no wins is a win, I would think, holistically for the whole podcast and all the listening audience.
Right.
I mean, there's how many weeks have you gambled where I'm not saying you personally, I'm saying for me, the listening audience, everybody, where you've not had a single win.
Yeah.
Right. Like to just get one is pretty important. If you're betting across 4 games or you're just betting one singular game, just to get the one win matters the most. It's not a total loss for the day.
And something that I do on the show, because I want it to be a longer segment, you know, I'll throw in 5 bets. So maybe next year I select the 3 that I think are like the best. But the quick pick hit rate was at 70%. So for whatever reason, when I'm not doing the thinking, the quick pick was like was just hitting at like an insanely high percentage. I don't know.
That's funny.
I can't really explain that.
Well, I think that makes sense too, because I think the less you think about it, you know, if you really dig into the detail, you can kind of sway your way in either direction. And
then let me tell you what I'm doing this week. I think you kind of have a recipe for some kind of money coming in. So I have Rams money line straight bet, which is plus 210. Lions money line plus 190. So best case scenario, that's like $400 right there coming in.
Okay.
Like if you bet 100, that's like 400 coming in on each. Now you can do a parlay of Seattle and Green Bay. So then if both of your bets don't hit, then you're only down 100. And then if you want to be even cheekier, you could do those 3. And then the final one be a Rams-Lions tease the Rams to 13 and the Lions to 9. And then that way you could go 2 for 2, or you could go 3 for 1. Like there's a lot of different scenarios, but you're covered the entire time. But there's also a chance that you rake in a good amount of cash.
We may need you to break that all down again on Twitter for our audience before they're going to place the bet.
Because
I think me as an inexperienced gambler, somewhat experienced, but I would say for the overall, mostly inexperienced, it went a little bit over my head. I would have a hard time setting that up. But if you explained it to me again, I would figure it out.
So you have $400, and then we'll tweet it too if you want.
Yeah.
You have $400. You're putting $100 on 4 bets. The first bet being Rams money line.
Okay.
Second bet being Lions money line.
Okay.
And then you do a Lions Rams tease.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
You get the Rams at plus 14 and the Lions at plus 9.
Oh, okay. Those are 2 winners right there.
Right. That feels like that's a guarantee.
Mm-hmm.
And then that way, if all 3 of those hit, you're already at $500.
Gotcha.
But then you would lose 100 because the final leg is Packers Seahawks to cover us in case none of those hit.
So you're taking the other side of the leg. Gotcha.
Right.
Gotcha.
So I think worst case scenario,
hedging your bets.
Right. Worst case scenario, Seattle and the Packers win. But I would also think even in that worst case scenario, the tease still covers.
Yeah, the tease will cover.
So then you come out flat 0 as opposed to down money.
Yeah.
But if the Rams win, you know, you're already up 200.
Right.
And then hopefully the tease hits and hopefully the Lions win as well. Like you are betting with your heart with money lines because it's like plus 200.
Mm-hmm.
But also you're coming out of a situation where essentially you could be up $500 and like the worst case scenario is you're down 100, you know?
I think that makes sense. For whatever reason, that tease to me, if you go Lions, Rams, and then Lions, Rams tease, like that, I think those are your 2 winners.
Yeah. And then maybe even throw in like a $25 Lions Rams parlay because that'll probably give you like 200.
Yeah. I think there's some other like prop bets that I would probably go in on, specific to the Rams. I'd go.
Yeah. I mean, Tyler Higbee, anytime touchdown scorer is my lock of the week.
I like it. I'm going to go Cam Akers over his yardage total. It's probably somewhere around 75, I would say. I think he's going to soar away over that.
Also, if you want to fade the public, which is something that we don't do a lot on Nick's picks, but Browns +2, they're coining that as like the rat line, where it's like, why are the Browns +2? It was on Bill Simmons' podcast, and he just kept calling all this stuff rat lines. And I was like, that's hilarious, because I know exactly what that means, because it shouldn't be Browns +2. Like, Steelers are red hot, and the Browns kind of suck, but.
Yeah, here's what I would do, just because we talked about this a little bit earlier on in the episode. I'm going to give you my lock, even though you haven't yet asked for it. I'm going Cam Akers. I'm going Cam Akers and Kenneth Walker, both over in rushing yards. Cam Akers is 74.5, so almost exactly what I said. And then Kenneth Walker 78.5.
Okay.
So that's my lock.
I love it.
Yeah, you get it at like +300.
Well, I think that'll do it for Nick's picks. The final week of the season. I'll probably do a playoff one coming up, but
oh yeah, we'll definitely do playoff picks. I'm going to be most excited for that, as our team's not around this season in the playoffs. So I'm going to be all on board with you.
Nice.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Thank you guys for listening. Great episode, brother.
That was awesome. That was just fun. I'm glad that we can end the season on a high note. Hopefully,
it's always fun. I hope you guys enjoy listening. We do always have fun recording these podcasts. We're going to have a lot of fun growing over the next 2 years. A lot of fun stuff kind of coming your way. Every single thing in terms of video and shorts and Instagram posts and TikToks and everything. This is going to be a big deal in the next coming years. So we're hoping that the Rams kind of follow the same line and trajectory that the Rams brothers are following, and not vice versa, because that's what it's been since McVay has gotten there. It's stand in line, follow the path forward, and climb to the top. So we're a little flip-flopped next year. Hopefully they catch back up, and we're all on the same page. But thank you guys for listening. Like, subscribe. We love you guys, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, horns up, guys. Thanks for coming.
Peace. Go Rams.
Whose house?
Beat Seattle. Go Jared. Let's go 16.
Jared Goff.
Let's go 1-6. All right, guys. Peace.